Thank you for joining. What I'll do right now is I will, like always, post to my X account. Let's go ahead and put this up here. Not sure what's going on there, but all right, we'll put that over here while it figures itself out. But yeah, Bitcoin is selling off, ladies and gentlemen. Not looking too good. I mentioned this a few weeks ago that Bitcoin was going to drop to 75,000. And here we are. And I say that because where was the video? 101 to 80,000, put it there. Got to 90,000. See, Bitcoin needs to pump now, or 75,000. Yes, Bitcoin is 75,000. So have called this out for quite some time. We've lost a lot of key levels here. And the next big level is last year's low. You can just see it aiming for that level, right? And it seems like there's nothing that's going to stop it. You might get a little bounce here. Maybe even all the way back up to here. Before rolling over, coming back down, and targeting those lows. Right, definitely something we could see happen here in the future. Internet's a little slow, but we're gonna go ahead and push on anyway. Just gonna go ahead and get this on my X feed because for some reason my computer is not liking X at the moment, which is completely fine. But yeah, pretty volatile weekend. A lot of traders love this because Bitcoin usually does nothing over the weekend, right? If we can go back to where was last week's Friday and Saturday. All right, so here was the weekend price action, right? Even this was a pretty big move for a weekend. You know, that's like a $3,000 move for Bitcoin. So that's even still a pretty big move for Bitcoin over the weekend, but usually it doesn't do much. Right, we can even go back again. Here we go, right? So this is like what Bitcoin has been doing over the weekend. So stuff like that. No real price action, right? The moment 4 o'clock stops, you see some really big candle relative to the 1 hour, pretty big candle. And then once New York closed, this was the price action for 2 days until, look at that, futures opens 6 o'clock, and then we get a dump to the downside. But you know, some true traders, you can still trade the market over the weekend. It's not like you can't trade, right? Like if you woke up on Saturday, you saw it made this high, even this high right here, right? Saturday morning took out this high. You could have went short to the lows, which is what I did. You got a nice little trade. Take out those lows. Let's just say you want to go long again, stop loss below the lows. You could have went long, and then you would have been able to aim for the middle, right, of that little range. Go long, aim for the middle of the range. Not much. Maybe if you're trading on leverage, 0.25% gain, but on altcoins, it's going to be a lot more, right? So just something to keep in mind. So when I say that, now you're looking at this Saturday, Sunday price action. Pretty much Saturday, not Sunday yet, but you go ahead and let's go back to right there. Friday at 5 p.m. Right, so that's when futures closed. And look at that, you have a very big move, almost a $10,000 move so far. So traders love this kind of price action because it gives you opportunity in the market. Right? I will admit, one of the best trading strategies for Bitcoin is always going to be trading the trendline break, a bearish trendline break, and going short. I've noticed this over the past few years of trading Bitcoin that typically once you go short after a trendline break, especially like this with multiple touches, it usually plays out pretty well, right? So you could have done it here. Once you get this break, just short it, stop loss above these highs, aim for the lows. It ended up getting there and gave you some more as well. Let me go ahead and zoom out to my 4 hour. As you can see here, this was an even higher time frame trendline break, so this one took some time to play out. I actually went short on this break. I believe it was like somewhere around here. I was trading IBIT on options, IBIT, entered short, expiration date a few weeks out. Even though we had this pump to the upside, still stayed short just because of the history Bitcoin has had when it comes to selling off after a bearish trendline break. Sometimes it takes some time, and that's what it did. It took the short down to here, closed it out, entered another short here, and then closed it out right around here actually on Friday. Wish I held it longer because obviously now you're getting an extra $10,000 move to the downside, but this is just typically what Bitcoin does, and you can do this almost at any point, right? I've went over this stuff before, where even if you just take Bitcoin, just take a regular trend line, and we can start from here. So from the beginning of December, if you were to draw a trend line up, let's go ahead and make this brighter, right? So say you drew the trend line up, you waited for it to break. Even if you waited until you saw this little candle, you went short, you'd have made some money right there. You could have moved the trend line over to here, right? Got a little fake out, so maybe you readjust your trend line to like this. You see it, same thing here, a little bearish candle, you go short, hold it, and you could trade it down to these lows, and it would have played out too as well. Same thing here, you see Bitcoin reapproaching the highs. So whenever you see it reapproaching the highs and it breaks, it seems to always work out, or not always, but most of the time it does work out in your favor, right? Let's just say you decide to go short once again after the break of the trend line. Even if you entered here, stop loss above the highs, took some time, but it would have played out, you would have made some money. Just have to remember to take profits. And then once again, same thing here. You were to draw a trend line. Bitcoin, once it reached broke above the high, you could have went short here or waited until you got this failed auction entry here. And then this is the one that would have printed very nicely, right? You'd have been able to go short from 94,000 all the way down to 77,000, right? Almost a $20,000 drop in price. So these trend line breaks work very well, especially when you're in a bear market, right? Funny thing is, even in the bull markets, it does work too as well. As you can see, you kind of want to be closer, right? Because you could have done this trend line break, shorted, it would have played out, all right? Could have got some profits, especially if you were aiming for these lows, right? It would have worked out. But sometimes it's best to just get a little bit more local. Mark out your highs, right? Even sometimes these secondary highs are extremely important, because you can see that's where price reacted multiple times. So you could have marked out some of those highs, drew your trend line one more time, you get the break, you short here, stop loss above the highs or up here if you're trying to be more comfortable, and you'd aim for the lows, which it eventually got to. But if you wanted to be conservative, maybe you aim for, 50% of this impulse to the upside, right? Which would have worked out to, let's see, not the biggest move, but if you wanted to be conservative, you target these lows. Maybe you move your stop loss down to here or even this high. Still ends up being a 1-to-1 trade, and you would hit your target. So trend line breaks are very important. They seem to play out very often with Bitcoin. And look at this, right? Look at the respect. Broke above, stayed above, and stayed in between this high and this high, right? So just consolidated here for a few hours and then eventually exploded to the upside. This is why trading and technical analysis is so interesting, because you can see how delicate price really is when it comes to importance levels. And look at this, we're selling off even more. The sell-off continues. Yeah, like I said, this is the main target for sure. 74,400 or $384.70, because that was the low of 2025, right? So 2025 low is extremely important. That's clearly the next major target. And in my opinion, we're probably not going to take out that low until Monday. We're probably going to come down, trade around, find a little range, and then sometime next week, take out those lows. Are we going to go lower? Maybe, maybe not. And then that would be a very interesting area to look to go long, right? Just in case, so people understand, right? So 2025 low. Yeah, just gonna watch that continue to sell off. Ethereum is the same way as well. Ethereum is actually targeting 2,100, maybe $2,000 psychological as well. That'll be a nice area for it to test after breaking below these lows. And if you really zoom out, it's just a massive trend line on Ethereum, right? Which lines up with that low. And that's why I believe that's going to be the next major target for Ethereum. It's not slowing down at all. And look at this, they're running it extremely quickly. This is a $1,100 candle. 1 minute candle is $1,100. $1,300. $1,500. That was a $1,500 1 minute candle on Bitcoin. And there's the bounce. $1,200, $1,300 green candle back to the upside. Filling some inefficiencies. And look at that. Very quick move back to the upside here, right into that inefficiency on the 1 minute, which also broke this low. So this is a very important 1 minute candle here. Let's see how this 1 minute candle closes. The fact that it opened up and impulsed higher leads me to believe it's not going to end above that high. But if it does, that is a pretty bullish sign locally, right? Like some people like to say, power of three, right? Accumulation, manipulation, with possible distribution back up. And then maybe we just stay range bound like this for the rest of the weekend. As you can see, look at that. The 1 minute candle did not close above that fair value gap. Extremely bearish. More downside to come. I feel like I spelt that incorrectly. I like to say chart actually. Let's go ahead and make this nice and big. For some reason, it's not allowing me to post from my computer, so I have to use my phone. Not a problem. There it is. It's just struggling at this fair value gap. These levels are so technical, as you can see, and yeah, it's just failing. It does not want to go back above 77.8. We're gonna see if this starts to rotate down even more. I believe 2025 low is the low that's gonna be targeted. I didn't think so this weekend, but then as soon as I said that, we dropped $1,500 more, right, in value before, reclaiming it all, closing back above, which is kind of bullish. But if we don't even start trading above 78,000, then I believe the sell-off will continue. We also have Ethereum. Like I said, targeting around 2100. It's major draw on liquidity. That's the target for sure. These trend lines, man, do not underestimate bearish trend line breaks while in a bear market, right? It's a current bear market. Everything is bearish. Lower highs, lower lows. Nothing about this right here is bullish. So currently definitely in a bear market, right? And of course, yeah, you go ahead and you zoom out. It's always going to look bullish. But yeah, right now this is not bullish. Right, we lost last month's low, last week's low. Go ahead and delete this. We are technically trading in a discount of this entire overall range, right? Point of control sitting at around 1800. Also very interesting. Respected it here. A lot of respect at this value area high of the overall range. And yeah, it just makes sense to want to target the area where the most volume has been traded, which also lines up with a couple demand zones, right? But first, this is going to be the next interesting area for Ethereum, at least, is this 2800. I mean, $2,100 level. XRP. Also targeting previous quarter's lows. Super oversold. Massive manipulation in the markets right now. It looks like the 1 hour time frame is the time frame that the markets are respecting, right? 1 hour previous highs are all being defended. And it seems to be like that across the board, right? Same thing for the Ethereum. Let's go ahead and hide this. So even with Ethereum, look at this candle right here. Even with Ethereum on this candle, they did not want the market to trade above the previous 1 hour high. This is control. Look at this. This is why one-time framing is so important, right? If you go short right now, well, not right now, but if you went short earlier and just trailed your stop above any 1 hour candle high from here, as you can see, I don't need to mark them all out, but right? Price never came above any one of these highs. Defended. Price came down, came up, defended it. Okay, right here. 26.36, and then this candle 26.36 and 16 cents, right? So the algorithm even defended it by about, say, like 70 cents or so, 80 cents, right? So no matter what, they are defending the 1 hour highs on Ethereum. I think it's the same thing for Bitcoin as well. Right, let's go ahead and do this. Yep, every 1 hour except for this one right here, except for the one where they had to load up before pushing it lower to break the previous quarter's lows, yesterday's lows. That candle, right? They loaded up, destroyed it. But as you can see here, so from Friday at 4 p.m., so from close, every single 1 hour candle high has been defended until it was time to break the lows, generated some liquidity, destroyed it, and the sell-off continues. So for me, you know, since the 30-minute is more manipulated, you can see highs being taken. I'll be focusing on the 1 hour because the 1 hour is going to let you know, okay, Now they're starting to take out these 1 hour candle highs. So something is shifting in the market. Just that simple analysis can save you thousands of dollars and also help you make thousands or hundreds or whatever it is, help you make money. Again, not financial advice, but it is just something to be aware of because it is just so obvious, especially for individuals that have been more experienced in the market. You can just see these simple little things. It might look like all confusion, but you start to zoom out. You look at the 4 hour, see how the 4 hour one-time framing has been. And for the most part, since Wednesday at 7 a.m., all the 4 hour highs have been defended. If you trailed your stop above every single 4 hour high on Ethereum, you'd have made it. And you'd been able to squeeze all of this out. You could even close it down here if you wanted to. And as it is right now, a previous 4 hour high still has not been taken out. And then don't get me started on the daily, right? The daily did it here pretty well. Range bound. Once it starts to sell off, same thing here, right? 4 days straight, previous day's highs have been defended. So yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. So much red. This one was, look at that, took out that high, pivot high, continued to sell off, took out these lows, just moving lower. Yeah, Zcash can go easily all the way back down to like $70, $50 to $70. Sounds crazy. It sounds crazy. But when price was trading at $380, I'm sure it sounded crazy for it to go back down to the lows of $48. And what did it do? It went all the way down to $15. So is it really that crazy? No, not that crazy. What's crazy is not following the trend, right? Stay short for now, not financial advice. But yeah, the trend is clearly down. So swim with the whales, as they always say. Swim with the whales. Then you also have Solana. Remember to leave a comment of a crypto you'd like to see me go over. There's only, I think only one person in here. I think I only have 9 views, one person in here. So yeah, that one person. Leave a comment of a project you want to see me go over. Nope. Let's see if this works. Copy, paste. I think it's Anno. Right, anyway. Solana is very much range bound as well. Lost all those levels. Let's see what happens if we pull it from here. Volume shelf sitting at $45. So yeah, there is a chance Solana goes all the way back down to $45. Sounds crazy, but not that crazy. Could even possibly go back down to these lows, $9. People might not think so, but there's a chance that can happen, ladies and gentlemen. And obviously, if it gets down there, you know where the better price to buy is, it right? Because again, just like an auction with these markets, that was the low of the bear market, that's the high of the bull market. You can see that trading up here is a premium, trading down here is a discount. We're currently at a discount for Solana, right? Based on its historical value. So what does that mean? That means that more than likely the people that buy at these levels will be in the profit at some point, and the people that buy at these levels will be in the negative at some point, right? And if we do break this into quarters, it even shows you the respect here. Look at this respect on this pivot here. Clear target, right? $79.94, which is where a weekly demand is. That would be a nice area, in my opinion, to be looking for along for Solana, right? That's where I would be looking for along. I'm going to go ahead and set an alert. Once per bar is fine. Because yeah, that's definitely an area. I'm actually going to go down to a lower time frame so that I get a more frequent alert, right? So let's go down to let's do 90 minutes. Once per bar, leave that there, because that is a level that I would be interested in taking a long. But yeah, it gets very interesting looking at these charts. You know, people say, oh, how could you look at charts all day? I mean, just looking at the value of a company, looking at where I could buy at a discount, where I can sell at a premium. Just like how people buy and sell cars at auctions, buy and sell Pokemon cards, buy and sell absolutely anything in the world, actually, from oxygen you breathe to divers to water you drink to the house that you're living in. Everything is bought or created very cheap and sold at a premium where the market thinks it's worth, right? And right now, this is the same thing. Solana, solid project, solid company. Big company, now trading on the New York Stock Exchange. People that don't know much about valuations don't know if they're buying at an expensive price or at a discount. But then when you look at this, you say, okay, well, let's just think about this historically, right? Solana, we know the market at some point thought Solana was worth only $9. And we knew Solana, the market thought also Solana was valued at $260. So when you're in the market and you're looking at this valuation from 260, you see price getting up to that level. You say, okay, well, we know last time the algorithm, market makers, whoever it is, thought Solana was not worth more than $260. Now we're back at that price, even a little bit higher, right? So in my opinion, based on historical data, then maybe this would be a good time to sell Solana. The smart people sold it just based on historical data. And the ones that sold it up here were absolutely right, right? Price came down, back down to $90. Some people said, wow, we're back down to $90. Good price, which it was a good price at that moment. Price comes back up, right back to around that 260 high valuation, right? As you can see, right back to that 260 valuation. People said, okay, this is my chance to get out again. They got out, and now there's some people stuck holding the bags. Now trying to figure out where does the market think Solana is another good place to buy. Good place to buy, right? And right now, a lot of big orders came in at $77. So that's going to be an area where the market naturally is going to react, because a lot of big buyers thought that that was a good price to buy Solana. So when it gets back to this level, more than likely the institutions that bought here, them and their buddies, are going to load up on Solana here, causing some sort of a reaction typically, right? We don't know how high it's going to go before possibly coming down lower and testing these lows again. And then you might get a very quick move to the downside, because anyone that bought here might say, okay, well, the market still thinks this is selling at a premium. So that means the next area where buyers did step in would be close to $10, around $10, maybe even $25. And those are the lows where you're going to have a lot of people accumulating, because they know for a fact that even though Solana might be trading at these lows, highly unlikely it'll stay there for too long. So as you can see here, it stayed there at these ranges, right? Which is this range here. between $50 to basically $10 for, how long was this? Pretty much a year, right? A year and a half. They were accumulating, and then expansion. So this will be the area where people will start getting very interested in Solana again. $50 per coin. So we're gonna see what happens here over the next few months to a year or two, right? Until then, keep these charts very clean. Go ahead, delete that, could delete this. It already lost this low, it took out that high, but I'll leave it. Shows me that it took out a weekly swing high. Liquidity should be aiming for this low, which it took out, and now this low for sure, right? So this is where it's stopping. And I'm gonna go ahead and put an alert here too, just so I can see what price does for Solana, at least once it gets here. But of course you want to check on Bitcoin first, right? Just to see what it does. Let's go ahead and go back to Bitcoin. All right, it's building some value back above. Flip the fair value gap into support here. And yeah, looks like an interesting move to the upside should follow. Just seeing this reclaim. As long as we stay above the 77.5, then there is a possibility. Let's see, where did Friday 4 p.m. close at here? Oh wow, it's a while away. Let's see. Okay, let's see here, 5 minutes. So Friday, so the market closed at 83,000 and now we're trading at 78. So it's a very big CME gap right now. I'm sure we're gonna probably try to fill that a little bit. Wouldn't be surprised if we end up trading back above 80,000 by the end of the weekend, before even testing this trend line and then moving back down. I think next week's gonna be very bearish for Bitcoin. In my opinion, I would be looking for shorts on Bitcoin above $80,000. Just based off what I'm seeing here. Pretty big fair value gap as well. Do you like that for the 5 minute? Go ahead and just remove this. But you see, it's actually respecting this low more than it is the fair value gap, right? Close below, close below, close below, moved above, testing it now. So more sensitivity to that low than the fair value gap, the one that broke these lows. You can go down here. Let's see what that looks like on the 5. In the 5 minute, based on the 1 minute, it's respecting it quite well. Very interesting. Okay, let's see here. let's see what else we got going on. Ethereum pushing back up. A very big wick. XRP. This is when things get dangerous for a lot of people because they see these green candles, these wicks. They go long. It looks nice. You might go up a little bit more. They get greedy without taking some profits, and then it just starts curling over again, right? This is when trend lines can be your best friend because as of right now, that's going to be one of the most important ones to watch on XRP. Ethereum is actually breaking out of that trend line as we speak. Oh, not yet. And then Bitcoin. Yeah, Bitcoin is a little bit, yeah, it's a little interesting. But yeah, you know, we're going to see what happens here. If we lose this level, 2025 low is what I would be expecting. It's defending that low right now, though. So this could be the low of 2026, in my opinion. It could possibly happen, right? Just like one-time framing before, how I was saying how these candles, they protect the previous candles low. So if they protect 2025 low for Bitcoin, then this could be the actual low of the year in 2026 for Bitcoin. Do I think so? No. But it is a possibility. But yeah, like and subscribe. I'm going to try to go live more often. And that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for joining. Remember to follow me on X, where I post updates pretty often. All right. My channel as well. Like, subscribe. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yes, and SWE is also dumping too as well. More than likely we'll get down to around 50 cents. Thank you for joining. Take care.